Hi, it's Kylie Coo. Welcome to my studio. So, in the Mixed Media Emporium Facebook group, our prompt for August is recycle, repurpose, reuse. And the challenge last week was to make a masterboard. I used this old cereal box, some paints, and various items that I found from around the house to make all these glorious marks. So this week our challenge is to make something with our masterboards. So what I've done here is I've looked out some pieces of jelly paper that I'd printed on. I've got various little brochures I've collected over the years, kind of from visitor attractions and that type of thing. And all I'm doing here is just looking at how these might fit. Great image there. It would have taken up most of the board. That would be fine, could do that. But I want to make a couple of things probably from this, because that's the idea of a MasterCard, that you can then go on to make other projects from it. Now, I am going to just kind of whiz through some of my collage material here as I'm looking at it. And I'll also whiz through the process. So let's speed this up a little bit. So I keep a lot of collage material because I use it at different times. I go through phases of using collage. Sometimes I'm really into it for a while and then I won't use it quite as much, but I do keep lots of material from magazines, from travel brochures, etc. And as far as possible, I try and keep them kind of organised. So I'm thinking maybe people, maybe flowers, maybe something from a travel brochure. I just can't quite decide. A lot of these images are kind of too big for maybe the size that I kind of have in mind for today. In the past I've made artist trading cards, I've made little mini journals from masterboards, made a whole load of things. And today, because I'm still in that recycle, repurpose, reuse mode, I'm thinking, yep, collage would be a good thing to use because this is all recycled material. So just whizzing through some of this and having a look at what might fit. I have no idea what I want to use today. I just know that I want to do collage of some description. Here's kind of different flowers. I always have kind of flower collage around. And some of the things that come in are just from free magazine type things that come through the door. So I've sifted out a few pieces now and I'm just looking. I love that tiger because it's black and white and it's going to stand out. I think that butterfly is a possibility. Then thinking this, I don't know, is it a cheetah? This was obviously a Holmes magazine. Beautiful woman with that orange dress, thinking that I've cut her out. Even that, gosh, I forget the name of that statue, thinking I could use it. A classical art piece, would it fit in? I realised that my background is very bright and I'm thinking there the Maori piece with those kind of giraffe and zebra things might go quite well. So really just trying to narrow it down here, and flowers is always a kind of fallback for me. So starting to narrow it down in my own mind, but I'm at the point now where I feel that I'll be able to look better at what fits if I actually start to cut them out. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut out all of these and see how they go. I decide the butterfly is just going to be lost in the background there, but the tiger, because it's black and white, is definitely standing out. But likewise, the Maori sculpture doesn't seem to fit. It just goes too far into the background. I think I could have worked with the animal and the giraffe and the zebra, whatever it is. I could have worked with that. I could have made it work, I think, but I think I would have had a lot of work to do to make it stand out. So I then thought, I've got this kind of strange looking object. This might fit. And perhaps a wee bit unfortunate when I realised what it was. It's actually an illustration of a plague doctor's mask, I guess, worn in the Middle Ages. So, you know, appropriate for our times, maybe not appropriate to show, maybe, but it was just such a great image, so you know, I went with it. So I'm now just cutting my cards to size. Because it had a rough edge, I just cut them a little bit more, but I think I end up making them 4 inches by 5 inches. And just taking the rough edges off. So there we go. I've got my 2 cards and I can see how I'm going to put these on. And I'm just going to use a glue stick to put these in place. Because the background was so bright, so vivid, it really needed these kind of monochrome pieces to kind of stand out against that detailed background. So just using my glue stick, just on a piece of deli paper, greaseproof paper. Had to adjust the tail a little bit, just crumpling a little bit, but that's okay. A moment and I get it there. Put that down. I then put down my Plague Doctor, or Plague Doctor's mask to be more appropriate. And I put that down in place. And I have had that image for a long, long time. In fact, I think I've had both for a while. Just gonna make sure that's properly adhered down, just using a forgotten the name of it, spatula type thing. Gosh, mind's going. Right, I'm now going to take my Stabilo All, because I want the tiger to look as if they're actually standing on ground, and I just want to darken it a little bit anyway, and the same with that kind of bird looking design. Just going to take a little bit of water on my brush and start to spread that out. I still want some of the design from underneath to show through, so I'm not going to obliterate the background completely, but I want it much darker. And you know, that's the thing about Masterboard, you can add to it, you can do more stamping on it, you could add collage, you could add paint, really just whatever you want. This week is just about making something with your Masterboard. So I'm taking my paint rag there and just knocking that back a little bit. I'll add a little bit more water, and then I'll give it a wipe again, and I'll just be able to see that background just a little bit coming through. Don't want to lose all that interest, but I didn't want it quite so bright down at the bottom there. And I do the same with the tiger. So as I say, I think these are about 4 by 5 inches. And I've only picked that size because that's the size that fitted with the 2 images. Right, so I've sharpened my Stabilo All. Perhaps too much of a point on it there, it was starting to break. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go round both images and then I'm going to smudge that out a bit. That's something you could do with your finger, or I'm just going to use my paintbrush again with a little bit of water on it, and that just helps it stand out a little bit more, helps the image stand out a little bit more, and gives the whole piece a bit of depth. I get little bits on my image, but that's okay. I just wipe them off, a little bit of water. Both these images were quite glossy, and for that reason I was able just to take it off that way. So just giving that bit of a kind of shadow effect behind the focal point. Now the other thing about Masterboards is, you know, I will sometimes make them just for the sake of making them. You know, I've maybe want to do a bit of something but not sure what, and I'll just sit down and make a board. And they're good to kind of have in stock, so to speak, so that if you do then want to make something quick like cards or a card topper or an artist trading card, then you know you can do that. So taking out my Inktense, this is in Tangerine, and I just wanted to add a bit of, I was thinking about the colour of a tiger, thinking about how some are that kind of deep orange colour. So I took out the tangerine and I wanted to knock a little bit of the white, I wanted to knock it back a bit. It was quite bright and I thought, well, take the colour of the tiger, the tangerine, and start to build that into the background. So whilst I'm changing a bit of the colour here, I've still got all that lovely texture and detail sitting below it. So it's not that I'm losing it completely, I'm just adjusting it a little bit. And I thought here it was good to have the kind of colour of the tiger in the background, given that the image is actually black and white. So looking now at this one and just thinking that I want something dark in the background here. I don't want to use more black, so I don't want to use the Stabilo All, I don't want to use a black ink tense, and I'm actually just looking for this one, which is Bark, which is quite a deep brown colour. And again, I'm just going to kind of go over the background there, going to take my brush with some water on it and just start to darken that. Now it is quite dark there, and again what I'll do in a second is to take my paint rag and I'll just knock some of that off a bit so that I can still see all the detail below. You can still see it there, there's a little bit still showing through, but I just wanted a little bit more coming through. So just rubbing that in places so that I can still get, you know, all those glorious colours of the original Masterboard showing through. Decide to add a little bit of the bark, the dark brown, onto the tiger one as well. I just want to introduce a little bit of darkness to it towards the top of the card. And again, I'll just put it on but then take it off a little bit. So I'm now going to take my clear gesso. At this point I was thinking that I might actually add some more detail to both the focal images, but because they were glossy, there wasn't much would actually sit on top of that. So this is where clear gesso comes in really handy. Although it appears to go on white, it does dry clear. So I've gone over both of them. Now, just while I'm waiting on that to wait, I'm just rounding the corners of my cards. I just like my cards rounded. That's just kind of personal preference. And just kind of looking at them at times, wondering what else I'm going to add. I take one of my Arteza, or in fact two of my Artezas. One's Aztec Gold and the other one is Pearl Copper Gold. These are the metallic acrylics, and I just want to add little bits of this. I had used some gold in the background. Again, it was an Arteza Gold. I'd used that stamping in the background, and I just want to bring some of that to the front again, so that when the light hits these cards, it will just pick it up. So quite subtle, not putting too much on. But in a moment I'll show you how the light, when it hits them, that's just picked up. So again, you know, I've got quite a dark background. I've changed it from being very, very bright and just, you know, darkened it a bit. But now introducing the metallics that will just give little flecks of light. Just as the light hits it, it will just give those little bits of interest. And I just keep adding until I'm kind of satisfied with that. And I'm really liking that background. I can still see all that original detail, but I feel I've enhanced it, and I feel that it goes well with these two images. So just taking this Sharpie paint pen, it's water-based, it's a medium nib, and I'm just going to add just a tiny bit of detail, just a few dots here and there. I didn't want to overdo it. So if you're in the Mixed Media Emporium, I look forward to seeing what you create with your masterboards, with some fabulous masterboards. And you can photocopy them if you want and work on the photocopies. That's what Nina likes to do, and of course I'll be leaving a link to her video below. I tend to use the original masterboards. It would be very rare for me to copy it, but that's not out of the question. This is just the way that I like to work. So, final step, I'm going to take some black StazOn ink and just go around the edge. It just hides any bits of the kind of exposed cardboard from the cereal box. So these were quite quick, quite easy, but at the end of the day, I really like them. They're kind of dark in some ways, especially that one of the Plague Doctor mask. I'm not sure what I'll do with them. They may go into a journal. I may just sit with them as is. So as I say, all that interesting detail below that was on my original masterboard. The monochrome images definitely stand out well against it, but loving just the little white dots, but also the Arteza metallics that I added to it, and just showing you there the original masterboard, so you can still see some of that coming through, but just that little bit darker. So I really enjoyed doing this. It was quite quick to do. I didn't have a lot of time this week, so having the board ready was great. So I hope you've enjoyed this. As always, stay safe, take care, and thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.